The cloud, it's not just where we keep our photos and files. It's literally the foundation of our entire digital world. But what if I told you that foundation, the one we all thought was a solid single thing, is actually starting to fracture? Today, we're going to deconstruct why the cloud's greatest strength, its centralized power, is now becoming its biggest challenge. Just look at this number. Almost $2.4 trillion. That's what the cloud computing market is projected to be worth by 2030. It is, without a doubt, the bedrock of modern life. But here's the thing. That unbelievable growth is hiding a really important secret. The era of the single, all-powerful, monolithic cloud is quietly coming to an end. So to really understand where the cloud is going, we first have to take a quick trip back in time and remember the world it replaced. A world that was frankly full of friction, massive costs, and just so much complexity. Before the cloud, if you wanted to launch an application, you were completely trapped by the on-premise model. I mean, think about it. Huge upfront costs for stacks of servers, a procurement process that could take months, and paying for all this expensive hardware that was just sitting idle most of the time. The cloud just completely flipped the script. It promised a whole new world. A pay-as-you-go model with resources you could get on demand and scale instantly. It was a game-changing.
And what's wild is that this revolutionary idea wasn't even new. Way back in 1961, a computer scientist named John McCarthy had this incredible vision. He asked, what if computation wasn't something you had to own? What if you could just plug into it, like electricity from a public utility? That one single thought experiment, it planted the seed for the entire cloud as we know it.
Decades later, McCarthy's vision became our reality. The cloud paradigm arrived, and it wasn't just a new technology. No, it was a completely new way of thinking, built on just a few powerful, interlocking principles.
So what actually makes the cloud work? Well, the official definition boils it all down to 5 key ingredients. 1. You can get resources yourself, on demand. 2. You can access them from anywhere. 3. Massive shared pools of resources create incredible efficiencies. 4. You have the power to scale up or down instantly. And 5, the big one, you only pay for what you actually use. You put those 5 pillars together, and you've created a completely new economic and operational engine for all of technology.
Now, this new paradigm gets delivered in 3 main flavors. And honestly, the easiest way to understand them is with a kitchen analogy. First, you've got infrastructure as a service, or IaaS. That's like renting an empty kitchen. You got to bring your own stove, your own ingredients, everything. Then there's platform as a service, PaaS. That's like a kitchen that already comes with the appliances. You just bring the food. And finally, software as a service, or SaaS. That's basically just ordering delivery. You don't manage anything, you just enjoy the meal.
This whole model was so unbelievably successful that it created this hyper-consolidated core, a monolithic structure just dominated by a few giants. But that era is now facing a reckoning, because its own success is creating pressures that are simply unsustainable. So here's the big question. Is the era of the single monolithic cloud actually ending? It's a huge thing to consider, but the evidence is really starting to mount. We're seeing a perfect storm of geopolitical, technical, and even environmental pressures that are all actively working to fracture this centralized model, pushing the cloud towards something entirely new. I mean, just look at the foundation of the cloud. We see this massive concentration of power. The infrastructure layer has basically become an oligopoly. You've got just 3 companies, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, controlling over 60% of the entire global market. Now, for years, this created a really powerful, stable core, but it also created a single, enormous point of systemic risk. The first big crack to appear is geopolitical. That early, idealistic vision of a borderless cloud, it's colliding head-on with the hard reality of national laws. Countries around the world are enforcing what they call digital sovereignty, demanding that their citizens' data physically stays within their own borders. And just like that, the single global cloud is being legally shattered into separate sovereign zones. The second crack is operational. See, to avoid being locked into one provider, about 89% of organizations now use multiple clouds. But they've just traded one problem for another.
It's created what we can only call a complexity crisis, with security all over the place, total operational chaos, and huge visibility gaps that make managing everything an absolute nightmare.
And finally, there's a technical tsunami hitting the monolith: artificial intelligence. Training AI models is incredibly energy-intensive. Just look at this projection. Today, AI workloads are maybe 10% of cloud compute. By 2029, they're expected to be half. That surge is pushing data center energy and water consumption to levels that are just not sustainable. Something has to give.
So what rises from all these fractures? The future of the cloud isn't about trying to build a bigger monolith. It's about designing a smarter, more distributed, and way more resilient ecosystem.
And that's this idea of the federated ecosystem. The future isn't one cloud. It's more like a mosaic of many interconnected clouds, each one optimized for a specific job. The massive hyperscale clouds will still be there for general tasks, but you'll have new sovereign clouds to handle regulated data, and a whole network of small edge clouds to power instantaneous apps like autonomous cars.
Okay, but how do you manage this fragmented world without creating total chaos? The answer is a technology called Kubernetes. It's become a kind of universal translator for the cloud. The best way to think about it is like a universal travel adapter. It lets you plug any application into any cloud, public, sovereign, or edge, without having to rewire it each time. It separates the app from the infrastructure, and that's what creates true portability.
Now, this evolution isn't going to happen overnight. It's a journey, probably in a few phases. First, organizations are going to focus on fortification, just taming the complexity of the multi-cloud setups they already have. Next, that federation layer will mature, with intelligent platforms that automatically figure out where workloads should run. And eventually, we'll arrive at an autonomous, intelligent edge, where the cloud is this truly distributed fabric of computing that's, well, everywhere.
And this brings us to the most important shift in thinking of all. For the last decade, the key strategic question has always been, which cloud provider should I choose? That question is now obsolete. The real question today is, how do I architect my technology so that it's portable across all of the clouds?
So this leaves us with a critical question, one that every single organization needs to consider. As this monolithic era ends and this new federated world takes shape, is your technology strategy designed for freedom and flexibility, or is it chaining you to a single ecosystem? The choice you make now will define your ability to compete in the next decade of computing.